You were fine when you were struggling, when you were asking for advice, seeking approval, playing by the rules. But the moment you started winning on your own terms, suddenly everyone has a problem with you. What I'm about to explain will make every confusing relationship shift in your life finally make sense. People who claim to support you suddenly turn cold. Friends who were close start acting distant. Family members who encouraged you become critical. Co-workers who were friendly become hostile. And you're standing there thinking, what the hell did I do wrong? I'm actually doing better now than I was before. Why does everyone suddenly hate me? Here's the truth. They don't hate you because you changed for the worse. They hate you because you changed for the better. And that change threatens everything they believe about themselves and the world. Today I'm breaking down exactly why people suddenly start hating Sigma males once they start evolving. This isn't about you being difficult or antisocial. This is about human psychology, insecurity, and the uncomfortable truth that most people don't actually want you to succeed. Buckle up. This one's going to sting. Reason 1, your independence exposes their dependency. Let me start with the big one. When you were emotionally dependent on others, seeking approval, needing validation, requiring constant reassurance, people felt comfortable around you. You were predictable, manageable, safe. But the moment you became genuinely independent, the moment you stopped needing their approval or validation, everything changed. Here's what's actually happening. Your independence is a mirror that reflects their dependency. When you don't need external validation to feel good about yourself, it forces them to confront the fact that they do. When you make decisions based on your own judgment, rather than seeking consensus, it highlights that they can't. Think about it. You used to ask for advice constantly. Now you make decisions confidently on your own. You used to need their opinion on everything. Now you barely mention your plans until they're already in motion. You used to seek their approval for your choices. Now you're just doing what you think is right. This drives people insane. Because your independence proves that dependency is optional. It proves that you can be emotionally self-sufficient. And for people who've built their entire identity around being needed, around giving advice, around managing others' emotions, your independence makes them feel obsolete. I've seen this play out so many times. The friend who loved giving you advice suddenly becomes cold when you stop asking for it. The family member who positioned themselves as your guide gets hostile when you chart your own course. The partner who enjoyed being needed starts arguments when you become self-sufficient. They're not mad that you're making bad choices. They're mad that you're making choices without them. They're not concerned about your well-being. They're concerned about their relevance in your life. And here's the brutal part. Most of them don't even realize this is what's happening. They genuinely believe they're worried about you or disappointed in your choices. But scratch beneath the surface and you'll find it's really about their own insecurity being triggered by your independence. Your evolution from dependent to independent fundamentally changes the power dynamic in every relationship. And people who benefited from the old dynamic, where they had influence over you, where their opinion mattered, where they could shape your decisions, are going to resist that change violently. Reason 2. Your success makes their excuses look pathetic. This one is harsh but true. When you were struggling alongside everyone else, your friends and family could comfort themselves with shared struggle. We're all in this together. Life is hard for everyone. Nobody's really making it. But then you started actually making it. You built something. You achieved something. You improved your situation through consistent effort and strategic thinking. And suddenly, everyone's mad at you. Why? Because your success destroys their excuses. When you were broke like them, they could say, "The system is rigged. and you'd nod along. But now you've figured out how to work within or around the system, and their excuse doesn't hold weight anymore. When you were single like them, they could say, "All women are shallow," or "Dating is impossible." But now you've developed yourself to the point where you're attracting quality women, and their excuse crumbles. Your success is living proof that the obstacles they claim are insurmountable can actually be overcome, and they hate you for it. I remember when I started getting my life together. Better shape, better income, better relationships. Some people were genuinely happy for me, but others? Man, the subtle hostility was real. Comments like, "Must be nice," or "Some people just get lucky," or "You've changed," with that accusatory tone. They needed me to stay stuck because my stuckness validated their stuckness. The moment I got unstuck, I became a threat to their narrative. I became evidence that they could have done more, tried harder, been more strategic. And that's uncomfortable as hell to confront. So instead of confronting it, they find reasons to hate you. You're too focused on money, or obsessed with self-improvement, or not fun anymore. These are just socially acceptable ways of saying, "Your success makes me feel bad about my failure, and I resent you for it." Here's what really gets me about this dynamic. These same people will claim they want you to succeed. They'll say things like, "I'm so proud of you," while their energy tells a completely different story. Their words say support, but their actions show resentment. And the higher you climb, the worse it gets. Every level of success you achieve is another excuse of theirs that gets demolished. Every goal you accomplish is another impossible thing that turned out to be possible with enough work and strategy. Your success doesn't just make their excuses look pathetic. It proves that their excuses were always just excuses. And most people would rather hate you than face that truth. Reason 3. You stopped playing their social games. Social dynamics run on unspoken rules and expectations. There are games everyone's supposed to play. Fake enthusiasm, obligatory attendance, performative friendship, group consensus, status hierarchies. When you were playing these games, people were cool with you. But the moment you stopped, the moment you started saying no to events you didn't want to attend, stopped pretending to care about things you don't care about, stopped participating in groupthink, people turned on you. Here's the thing about social games. They only work when everyone participates. When you opt out, you don't just free yourself, you expose the game for what it is. And that makes you dangerous. Think about it. You stop going to social events you find draining. Suddenly you're antisocial. You stop agreeing with the group just to keep peace. Suddenly you're difficult. You stop maintaining friendships that feel one-sided. Suddenly you're cold or have changed. But what actually changed? You started valuing your time and energy. You started being honest instead of diplomatic. You started choosing authenticity over social harmony. I'll give you a personal example. I used to attend every social gathering I was invited to, even when I didn't want to go. Why? Because that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to show up, be social, participate. But then I realized, why am I spending my Friday night at a party with people I barely like, having conversations I don't care about, just to maintain some social expectation? So I started declining, and the response was immediate. You never come out anymore. You think you're too good for us now. You've become so antisocial. Translation: you're not playing the game anymore, and it makes us uncomfortable. Here's what people don't want to admit. Most social games are based on mutual validation and ego management. Everyone shows up. Everyone pretends to be interested in everyone else. Everyone leaves feeling like they have a social life. It's all performance. But when you stop performing, you break the illusion. You reveal that these gatherings aren't actually meaningful. They're just ritualized time wasting. And people hate you for revealing that. The same thing happens with workplace politics, family dynamics, friend group hierarchies, any social system built on games and performance. The moment you stop playing, you become a problem. Not because you're doing anything wrong, but because your non-participation threatens the entire structure. And here's the kicker. The people who get most upset about you opting out are usually the ones who are most trapped in the game. They've invested so much time and energy into playing by the rules that watching you ignore those rules and be fine, maybe even better off, is intolerable to them. Reason 4. Your boundaries make them feel rejected. This is a big one. When you start setting real boundaries, saying no, cutting off access, demanding respect, refusing to tolerate disrespect, people experience it as personal rejection. You used to be available whenever anyone needed something. You used to tolerate behavior that crossed your boundaries. You used to prioritize others' needs over your own. But not anymore. Now you have office hours for your time. You don't answer texts immediately, or at all if they're not important. You shut down disrespectful comments instead of laughing them off. You walk away from situations that don't serve you. And people are pissed about it. Here's what's really happening. They're not mad about your boundaries. They're mad that they're on the wrong side of them. They're not upset that you have standards. They're upset that they don't meet those standards. I learned this the hard way. I had a friend who constantly called to dump his problems on me. For years I listened, gave advice, provided emotional support. But it was never reciprocated. When I had problems, he wasn't available or interested. Eventually, I set a boundary. I told him I couldn't be his unpaid therapist anymore. And you know what happened? He got furious. I was selfish. I had changed. I wasn't there for him anymore. But here's the truth. I was never actually his friend. I was his emotional dumping ground. And when I stopped allowing that, he had no use for me. This pattern repeats constantly with Sigma males. You set a boundary, and people who were benefiting from having no boundary get upset. They frame your self-protection as your problem, as you being difficult, demanding, or harsh. But here's what they don't want to face. If your boundary feels like rejection to them, it's because they were planning to cross it. If your standards feel like judgment to them, it's because they don't meet those standards. If your self-respect feels like arrogance to them, it's because they lack self-respect themselves. Your boundaries force people to either rise to your level or reveal that they're not willing to. And most people aren't willing to. So instead of improving themselves, they attack your boundaries. They label you as the problem. They make you out to be unreasonable or cold. But you know what? People who respect themselves respect boundaries. People who value you are happy to meet your standards. The only people who have a problem with your boundaries are people who were planning to benefit from you not having any. Reason 5. Your evolution reminds them of their stagnation. Here's something nobody talks about. Your growth makes other people confront their lack of growth. And that confrontation is painful. 3 years ago, you and your friends were all in the same place, same level of fitness, same income bracket, same relationship status, same life situation. There was comfort in that equality. Nobody felt left behind. Nobody felt like they were failing in comparison. But then you started improving. You got serious about fitness, you learned new skills, you built a business, you worked on yourself, and 3 years later, you're in a completely different place than you were. Meanwhile, your friends? They're basically in the same spot. Same complaints, same excuses, same life. And now every time they see you, they're forced to confront the fact that they haven't moved forward while you have. This creates massive resentment. Because your progress is evidence that progress was possible. Your evolution proves that staying the same was a choice, not an inevitability. I've seen this destroy friendships. Guy gets in shape while his friends stay out of shape. Suddenly, he's obsessed with fitness and no fun anymore. Guy builds a successful business while his friends stay in dead-end jobs. Suddenly, he's all about money and has forgotten where he came from. These criticisms aren't really about fitness obsession or money focus. They're about the uncomfortable reality that one person chose to grow while the others chose to stay the same. And here's what makes this particularly brutal for Sigma males. Your growth is often quiet and internal. You're not posting motivation quotes or documenting your journey on social media. You're just doing the work. And then, one day, people look up and realize you're miles ahead of where you used to be. That realization hits them like a truck. Because if your quiet, consistent effort led to massive change, what does that say about their loud complaining and lack of effort? Your evolution becomes a mirror that reflects their stagnation. And instead of being inspired by that mirror, most people want to smash it. They want to drag you back down to their level. They want you to stop growing so they can stop feeling bad about not growing. The comments come in different forms. Remember when you used to be fun? Translation: remember when you wasted time like we still do? You've changed so much. Translation: you've improved and I haven't. You're not the same person anymore. Translation: your growth makes me uncomfortable with my lack of growth. And God forbid you try to encourage them to join you in that growth. The moment you suggest they could do what you did, get in shape, learn a skill, start a business, they take it as judgment and attack you for it. Look, I'm not going to lie to you and say this journey is easy. Watching people turn on you as you improve yourself is painful. Losing friendships because you set boundaries hurts. Being criticized by people you used to respect stings. But here's what I know. The alternative is worse. Staying small to keep people comfortable means betraying yourself. Maintaining toxic relationships to avoid conflict means sacrificing your peace. Living inauthentically to gain approval means losing yourself. You can be hated for being yourself or liked for being someone else. Choose the hate. At least it's honest. If you've experienced this sudden shift, where people who used to support you suddenly started hating you the moment you started improving, drop a comment with the word validated and tell me which reason resonated most. And if this video helped you understand that their hate is actually proof you're doing something right, hit that like button and subscribe. Because I'm going to keep making content for men who are willing to be hated for being authentic, rather than loved for being fake. Remember, you're not being hated because you're being worse. You're being hated because you're being better. And that's exactly where you want to be. Until next time, stay the course.